Good morning, everyone. This is Corey Hinkle with your Ankerstar Wealth Daily Update. I've got a market update for you. I'm going to talk about Steve's topic for tonight's 5 o'clock focus event. And we'll also invite you out to the building if you're going to be around. We'd love to have you. We're going to look at the S&P 500 up just flipped negative for the day, but mostly flat. And I'm going to talk about a couple more things with returns for the NASDAQ 100 and also something else in looking at retirement that's not quite the same as the 4% rule. So got an interesting show for sure this morning for everyone out there who's watching, and we appreciate you being here with us. All right, first, I do need to remind you this is a financial education presentation. You must do your own due diligence before acting on anything you hear in this presentation. More disclaimer information can be found at ankerstarwealth.com. And the opinions expressed are mine and mine alone. Okay, tonight's 5 o'clock focus is for those first-time homeowners and home ownership. One thing I want to hit on just as you think about home ownership that I hadn't really thought of, but I actually learned it from the Financial Samurai in a thing last week. It's this idea that when you do become a homeowner, even if you've overpaid for a home to some extent, you become inflation neutral for shelter moving forward. Now your property taxes still go up some, but on a, relatively speaking, future home inflation or shelter inflation, becomes something that you're more neutral to. That mortgage payment should be mostly stagnant. Of course, you do have the expenses that come along with home ownership. But anyway, come out tonight. Tune in tonight and learn a little bit more from Steve and what he thinks about all that. All right, jumping over to the market. You can see the S&P 500 is just flat right now. Let me refresh. We do have the Dow Jones down 1/3%, and then of course the tech-heavy Nasdaq up 1/3%, and that's kind of mostly flat day. If we come over to the S&P 500, I will say this. You want to see a break to new highs actually this week. We would like to see that happen this week because we've been kind of hovering here at the old highs since really about November 28th. And you don't want to go on 3 weeks just sitting 1% under an all-time high. We're going to want to take those all-time highs out and make a move at least to them and through them to some extent. If we hover above them, okay, that's fine. We don't have to blow through them, but we definitely want to see the market do that this week. If not, if we don't see the market take out those old highs this week and push at least a little bit above those, then we could see a little exhaustion, right, for the people who've been trying to get there and buying along the way. So we definitely be on the lookout for that this week. We want to see new highs achieved this week for the S&P 500. All right, jumping over, I saw a really interesting article in Carlson. This is about a little bit related to the 4% rule, but also a little different. And I just want to say, Ben Carlson, just an amazing blog here. This blog is called A Wealth of Common Sense. He's an author as well, podcaster as well, and just a really sound voice in the space. So I want to definitely give him a shout out as we highlight his work here. But he talks about this blogger who has since actually passed away. But this blogger achieved retirement and had an interesting strategy as he did this. He not only went about things from kind of a 4%-ish rule where you withdraw 4% of your nest egg assets each year in retirement and allow the market returns to replenish those assets, but he had another rule as well, which served him well because he actually retired in spring of 2000 at the very peak of the dot-com bubble. Now going into retirement, he and his wife, this guy named John, he and his wife had actually stacked 4 years of expenses. Now what they did was they took like Social Security. So let's say you needed 100,000. Social Security is, let's say, 50,000. So they would stack up 200,000, basically 4 years of expenses on top of what they would need from Social Security. That was kind of the way they did their math. But he retired at the worst possible time. And he had this rule, as he looked at some data about market crashes, and it seemed that most of them, and the real bad ones, really, really nasty ones, you had about a 2-year period from peak down to trough. And then, so he thought, okay, if I have 4 years of expenses, then I can ride the peak to trough without any withdrawals, and then start taking withdrawals once we hit back to new all-time highs. And then once you get back to new all-time highs, if you had to replenish your 4 years of expenses, then you could go ahead and do so then. Ideally, once you get back to new highs, you have a really good high chance of rallying further. So you do kind of want to hold on if you can. But if you're getting too close to the end of that 4-year runway you had, then you need to start replenishing it just month by month. You start pulling out extra months of expenses. So that's what he did. And it was pretty interesting. There's the data about those major stock market downturns. And I wanted to share my thoughts on this. Does this apply to everyone? Well, having an extra 4 years of expenses. Well, there are folks out there who have a very large excess of resources. So let's say, living a relatively modest lifestyle, but at the same time, maybe you've got 10 million plus in liquid assets. I know that sounds crazy, but there's folks out there who do just through whatever means, whatever strategies, they've amassed, maybe even inheritance, they've amassed a pretty large nest egg of assets, but they really don't live very large. A lot of folks do start living larger and larger as that net worth grows. But for folks who have a dramatic excess of assets above and beyond what their means of their lifestyle, then they could really just stay almost 100% invested, because they're kind of neutral to these risks. There really is no drawdown in history that could have affected their retirement outlook. So they can just kind of ride the waves. There's another group of folks who can't really afford to keep so much cash, because maybe they don't have enough of a cushion going into retirement. And those folks might need to stay relatively aggressive as they enter a retirement scenario, just to kind of keep the outlook intact. Now, of course, there's obviously risks with that, and a drawdown would have a negative impact on their lifestyle, and they would have to be aware of that. So those are some different groups. For folks in the middle, I've definitely worked with some families who keeping a few years of expenses to the side, it doesn't affect their retirement outlook from a risk perspective, from a returns perspective. They can still generate enough returns. But at the same time, it gives them the peace of mind to keep all their other money invested. So I do think there's a psychological element there. Obviously, every situation is unique and different. And I just wanted to highlight this story here of this guy who he did it on his own, did it with his wife, had their 4 years of experiences of expenses, and things did work out all right for them. So really interesting. If you want to talk about your personal scenario, reach out to your advisor. Maybe you don't even have an advisor, right, and you want somebody to talk to. Certainly, you can do that. Reach out to us, and those are conversations we're very familiar with. Okay, last thing here. The NASDAQ 100 boom and bust. Look at this return chart of the NASDAQ 100. This is also from Ben Carlson, going back to the last 30 years. You can expect that in those good years for the NASDAQ 100, your returns are going to be phenomenal. Look at all the 40, 20, 30, 50% returns in a year on the NASDAQ 100 going back to 1995. But there is a catch. If you want these gray dots up here, which they should be green probably, right? If you want those dots, if you want to be able to brag to somebody about this 40% return, you have to be willing to stomach the negative 30 or negative 40% returns that do occasionally come. Now, investors are, some of them have forgotten. Some investors have forgotten what a big drawdown feels like, and may be surprised when it actually does come again. Now, 2020, you might say, well, 2022 just happened. 2022 was a V-shaped recovery. You were down 30, you were up 50 the next year, and you were fully back to neutral, like fully back to new all-time highs, well before you even got the 50% return the next year. It was like that fall. So did these investors remember, this is like, ooh, don't look at my account for a year. Back here there was, ooh, don't look at my account for multiple years, and I'm still not where I used to be. So again, when this is shocking here at the end of the tech bubble, minus 30, minus 30, minus 30 in a row. Wow. But he just highlights here that the the NASDAQ 100 is going places, and it's going places fast in both directions. And, you want to be mentally prepared for that. Steve has highlighted before that volatility is a gift, and that's something I believe as well. If you are owning high quality assets, not all volatility is a gift, but volatility in high quality assets certainly is. And that would be true for the NASDAQ 100 as a high quality asset on its own. All right. That's all I have for you today. I hope everyone has a good day. Hopefully we can stay in the green for the day, and look forward to hopefully getting to new all-time highs this week. Have a great day, everyone. Talk to you soon.